Even though Mario games seem simple on the surface, the more you look into them, the weirder they tend to get. Really taking the story of a plumber getting stuck in another dimension to rescue a princess from the clutches of an evil turtle tyrant to the next level. However, once in a while, Nintendo will add something to their game that's odd to even the standards of the Mushroom Kingdom. And these gave me the idea to create today's video about the most out-of-place things in every single Super Mario Bros. Entry. Before we get started here, my name is Copycat, and if you haven't yet, then please subscribe to my channel, hitting that bell to stay notified when I upload new videos. The first game to be released in the franchise is Super Mario Bros. For the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985. Having one thing I always felt didn't really belong in its iconic axe, which is the thing that needs to be touched to trigger the bridge to collapse as a way of easily defeating the King Koopa. Now, this mechanic does appear in a few future installments, but not the axe itself, as in those ones it's switched out now for a button, which in my opinion feels a little bit less authentic. As a kid, the feeling of dodging the attacks from the big bad and surviving to make it to the other side is something I'll never forget, and really solidified my love for gaming to the point where I chase that feeling to this day. The next game to come out is Super Mario Bros. 2, where the Western NES version would be released in October of 1988, having a few things that have really become estranged from the series, beginning with the rocket. These are located throughout World 4, where you have to pluck them from the ground, where they then act as a vehicle that you need to use to travel upwards to the next screen. Although you're not controlling them, and they really act more like a door or a vine than anything else. These sort of return in a way in Super Mario Odyssey, but lead to secret puzzle rooms and aren't a big part of the main storyline. The other thing I want to talk about are the extremely creepy masked gates. The things you use to exit each level once you collect the crystal ball and force their mouths open. In the final level, World 7-2, you actually have to fight one, which is an unnerving experience as it flies super fast through the air and has to be hit 3 times to be defeated. This then opens its mouth and lets you access the wart fight. A cool idea that unfortunately would never be used again. The final of the original NES trilogy, Super Mario Bros. 3, will come out for the system in 1990. Having one specific type of level I want to mention as definitely weird and unexpected in the hand trap ones of World 8. What's so strange about these short but hard experiences is that you're not always pulled into each one, where it seems like that there's just a chance that the hand will come out and pull you in once you go over them in the overworld. Even in some instances, being able to skip all of them entirely if you're lucky. With some sort of flying item, these should be easy for you, but still can give you trouble due to some of the tougher enemies and the lava hazards. So don't take them too lightly, even though they aren't going to be your biggest troubles. The first handheld game to be released was Super Mario Land for the Game Boy in 1989. Feeling very different from what fans were used to from the home console entries, with one main standout being the vehicle-based levels of World 2-3 and 4-3. These are the submarine level, where you're underwater and shoot missiles, and the airplane level, where you're airborne and shoot bullets, needing to make your way to the end in a forced auto-scroller scenario, which can be actually really hard. In 2-3, you'll encounter the Dragon Zamzu boss, needing to either shoot to kill it or break the bricks under it and trigger the switch to win. In 4-3, you'll encounter the final boss, Tatanga, and his weird chicken-throwing cloud in the Byong King Ton. A battle that can't be won via switch, so you have to use your skill to dodge the attacks and beat this alien in what's a pretty hectic fight. The only other thing for this entry I quickly want to mention is the flower power-up, where collecting it turns you into Super Ball Mario, giving you the ability to throw out Super Ball fireballs. What's so special and different about these ones is that they actually can be used to collect coins, as well as defeat enemies, bouncing off different surfaces, either collecting or hitting things that eventually come in its path. Next to come out is the Super Nintendo Entertainment System Super Mario World, having an item that only appears once in the game and nowhere else for no explanation at all in the Magic Ball. This is collected to complete the sunken ghost ship that takes you from Chocolate Island to the Valley of the Bowser, where when touched the level ends and you've made it to that final world. This is actually a thing that was used a lot in Super Mario Bros. 3, which needed to be collected once you defeated the Boom Booms at the end of some of the fortresses, acting the same as it ends things, just being a makeshift end goal. Another thing I have to show off is one of my favorite things from the entire game, in the spotlight that is a feature at the very end of Bowser's Castle, acting as a trippy source of light that allows you to see better in the dark. This thing is super weird, and unfortunately only shows up here in a pretty tame spot, which is surprising, feeling like something that probably was added at last minute as a bit of a gimmick and wasn't always in the game. The second handheld game to come out in the series is Super Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins also for the Game Boy, where this game by itself is out of place, containing some of the weirdest enemies, items, and levels you'll see featuring our mustachioed man. But to me, the thing that sticks out the most are the bosses. These include the disheveled looking big bird of the tree zone that swoops down from time to time and needs to be bonked, the alien Tatanga of the space zone, which you'll recognize as the big bad from the first entry, the sewer rat of the macro zone that pops out of different pipes in the arena so you have to be ready to bonk it, the spooky witch of the pumpkin zone, who conjures flames to try and strike Mario and light the fire beneath her cauldrons to damage him. For some reason, the 3 little pigs from the children's story being big bads of the Mario zone, the octopus of the turtle zone found within the belly of the whale, who shoots its children at you in an attempt to kill you, which is super morbid, and lastly, the final boss in Wario, who makes his debut here as Mario's antagonist, but later we're going to star in his own series. None of these bosses will return in future Mario titles, including Wario, believe it or not, so this one stands out amongst the rest as being truly different. Up next, we're going to look at a thing from the Super Mario World sequel/prequel, which is titled Yoshi's Island, where I'd say that the Yoshi transformations themselves are out of place, and at times just feel like they don't fit with the gameplay. In certain levels, you'll come across a box with an image of them on them that when bonked, lets you either become a helicopter, mole tank, submarine, train, car, or gain a pair of skis, allowing you to collect different puzzles in a different way, either to collect flowers or find the end goal. Again, some of these feel a bit awkward, so be prepared to have to really use your patience when using the transformations, although they are very unique overall and become game-breaking moments in their own way. The first game in the franchise to be based within the 3D realm is Super Mario 64 for the N64, where the thing I want to showcase as being the most out of place from it are the way that you enter levels, which here is via different paintings that you find around Peach's castle. The mystery as a new player is figuring out which ones are enterable and which are just there for show, creating a memorable moment that other games would end up copying even to this day. I love Super Mario 64, and I'm at times surprised by the weird hate I see for it online. So on a separate note, I'd love to know what you guys think about this specific entry in the comments below. I think that it's pretty obvious that the most out of place thing from the GameCube Super Mario Sunshine is the FLUDD device that you're forced to team up with at the beginning of the game, letting you platform and defeat enemies in a way that you never have before. This thing has 4 different nozzles that includes the squirt one that lets you just spray things, the hover one that when used lets you hover and move in midair for a period of time, the turbo one that allows you to move incredibly fast when of course used properly, and finally the rocket one that lets you launch Mario super high up in the air, but otherwise it's pretty useless. I'm mixed on the FLUDD. I like it in some instances, and I'm not as down on it as other people are online, but I am surprised that it's yet to return, and I'm sensing from leaks online that there could be a Super Mario Sunshine 2, so look out for that, and of course the FLUDD in the future. Nintendo would eventually return the series to the 2D realm with the release of New Super Mario Bros. For the dual screen system, where the only thing I want to talk about is a feature that I've been obsessed with for some reason ever since I came across it in 2006, in the snow that falls from the trees of World 5-1. If this happens to land on top of you, then you'll momentarily get stuck within the snow pile, and are open to getting damaged by an enemy around you, with your only choice being to dodge them when they fall, which is more easily said than done. This snow type mechanic is really unique, and unfortunately is not seen much at all in any other title other than in a few niche instances, leaving me to want way more levels like this with interesting ideas incorporated. Next to come out in the 3D realm is Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii console. Having one really unsettling obstacle that you can come across in the race against the spooky speedster in the ghostly galaxy in the pieces of meat. This implies that someone or something cooked a gigantic foe and just left it floating in space as a hazard that you have to get around. Yeah, when you think about it, it really doesn't make sense, and is kind of disgusting if you think about it too much. Really leaving me wondering what exactly these things were, and I hope that one day we get an explanation from Nintendo about this, but I doubt it. The second installment of the new Super Mario Bros. Sub-series would come out for the Wii in 2009, where I feel like the thing I need to mention from it that could be considered out of place is the Propeller Mushroom. This of course turns you into your character's propeller form, where you then can wave your Wiimote and send them launching upwards like a helicopter to the top of the screen. From here you can either choose to fall slowly, or hold down to descend like a drill, being able to use these abilities to your advantage to complete some pretty tough areas. This would later return, but in the form of a propeller box, which is really more of an item and not a power-up. Then on top of that, being replaced in New Super Mario Bros. U by the Acorn that just turns you to a squirrel and lets you glide more easily. I get why they got rid of this thing, but for what it is in this game, it is a lot of fun. A sequel follow-up to the first space-based entry would be Super Mario Galaxy 2, coming out for the Wii in 2010. Where I think the best thing to talk about in the context of this video are the Yoshi power-ups. Found only in a few spots, but are necessary to collect certain stars. These are edible things that give Yoshi certain powers, and include the Dash Pepper, that turns him red hot and causes him to begin to run extremely fast to the point where if you aren't careful he can be uncontrollable. The Blimp Fruit, that inflates Yoshi and has him begin to float upwards just like a helium balloon. And lastly, what I think is the weirdest, in the Bulberry, that when eaten exposes the hidden platforms in front of you that otherwise are intangible if you aren't powered up. Since this specific entry, Yoshi has barely shown up in a 3D Mario game, other than in a small cameo in Super Mario Odyssey. And I hope this is something that changes soon, as using your Dino Buddy is one of my favorite things in the franchise. Nintendo would perfectly blend aspects of the series' 2D and 3D realms with the release of Super Mario 3D Land for the handheld 3DS, which adds in the brand new mystery box mechanic, which I want to mention is one of the game's more out of place things. These are accessed through the different overworlds and are really just small rooms that require you to defeat a few enemies or solve certain puzzles to gain things like power-ups, 1-ups, and star coins. I remember thinking these things really slowed down the gameplay and just weren't difficult enough to be considered as fun, which really is a disappointing thing. This would sort of be improved on in the spiritual successor Super Mario 3D World, but just doesn't come up as nearly as much as in this one, so they aren't as memorable. The third installment of the new Super Mario Bros. Sub-series is oddly given the moniker of being the second, but anyways, came out for the 3DS in 2012. Where I'm going to look at an enemy as being one of the most out-of-place things from it in the Gold Boo. Now, I heard that this is a foe that can appear in a few of the game's levels, but I've never seen it myself, as it requires you to enter through a gold ring, which most people just don't do, as it isn't necessary in completing the stage or even getting the star coins. Instead, I've only really seen this enemy in the first course of the Platform Panic DLC pack, leaving piles of coins behind them as they float away in fear of you, only returning to their normal ghost form once the effects of the ring wears off. If you follow my channel, then you know my hatred for this particular game, mainly due to its out-of-place focus around coins. A weird tie-in to this video I didn't exactly mean to make, but it does make sense in this case, as it renders a usually fearsome foe into something cowardly just for the sake of coins. The final installment of the new Super Mario Bros. Sub-series would come out for the Wii U in November of 2012. Having a standout multiplayer feature in its boost mode, where one player controls Mario regularly, and the other uses the gamepad to assist him. That gamepad user places boost blocks that do a lot for the player, including giving them an extra platform to jump on, as well as being able to be used to defeat certain enemies. A mode like this would never ever be made again, but different 2-player assist features would remain present in a lot of Mario titles moving forward, being a great way to experience these titles with young kids who are just getting into playing video games. Up next is Super Mario 3D World, that would first be released on the Wii U, but would later be re-released for the Switch, where I want to show off the Gooba mask as being one of the most out-of-place items from it, being able to be worn by your character as a way to remain somewhat friendly with the usual hostile foes. Now, I do think this item is somewhat cool, but is unfortunately just not that useful overall, as the game is never difficult enough where you feel really compelled to use it, as being aggressive and bonking bad guys works just way better in the end. Next to come out is the absolutely massive Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch, where one really out of place thing from it, from a gameplay point of view, is your ability at times to move between the 3D and 2D realms, usually transitioned via pipe that allows you to play this game in some very unique ways. This actually becomes a pretty big part of the story and ends up being some of the most memorable moments from it, being a crazy standout thing to me when I first played through this game, having a super different feeling than what I've ever experienced before. This works really well, especially when moving between the two realms, which is really surprising. And I hope in the future Nintendo messes around with this a bit more, as some interesting stuff could come of it. The final game of this video, and the most recent in the franchise, is Super Mario Bros. Wonder that would be released for the Switch in 2023. Where really the most out of place thing from this entire entry, other than the elephant obviously, are the Wonder Flowers. The gimmicky feature of this title that changes something drastic in the level they're collected in. Some of my absolute favorites include riding on top of a gigantic out-of-control snowball, turning into a Goomba version of your character and having the platform as that foe, which is actually really difficult, becoming a Wubba, and being able to stick and maneuver on any wall that you come in contact with, causing a bunch of piranhas to sing to you, which I both love and hate at the same time. Riding on the back of several hoppos across spiky paths, which really ups the risk factor and is a lot of fun. And lastly, surviving a stampede of bulrushes by riding on their backs and dodging them when you have to. Just to name a few, of course. Now, I probably left out some notable ones, so if that is the case and you really want to, discuss them, then please let me know in the comments below. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. I really hope you did enjoy this one. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe to my channel, and hit that bell to stay notified when I upload new videos. Hope you guys all have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!